Lizzy with Long Distance Gamers, and today I'm going to be talking about Splendent Vale. Now, I have played through about 15 of the scenarios, but don't worry about spoilers because I did buy the recharge pack, so everything you see will be fresh. However, I will do some very, very, very minor spoilers, but everything I go over you will have seen by the end of your very first play, so don't worry about that if you don't want to see any spoilers whatsoever. Spoiler alert, I like the game. So that's something. So if you don't ever want to see any of the spoilers, just know the game is awesome. Now, if you are okay with spoilers, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing you do in Splendent Vale is you pick your character. You get one of these 4 characters and you'll have this entire book that you'll be going through and you'll be reading. Now, how will you pick your character? Well, you'll read the back of them. They all have a little bit about themselves as well as their pronouns. And you'll just go through that and decide who you feel you'll play most like. So, for instance, her, she has the ability to sense emotions of objects. She is blind, so that is like a very big part of her character. And something I do love is after you do pick your character, like you will have a personal setup where you'll go through and it'll tell you what to pull out and what to do. And then it will go through each of the different characters from this character's perspective. So for instance, she cares about, blood type. So, blood types on all of them. She cares about family. So everyone's family is listed. And she also is concerned about what fears people have. So the fears are listed. While Farah still has, the personal setup, but Zezer is this person's pronouns. So this cares about likes and dislikes and favorite philosopher. So this is very much about books, and you get that throughout the game. Now, Romani, she is an apothecary and she can talk to animals. It says that right there on the back. Not a spoiler, really. And then she's like very lovey-dovey. Like her favorite food, and she cares about birthdays. So you have their birthday, like a 4th day under the sun. And I have wrote down which day that would be closest to, because, I'm a Gemini. I'm born May 24th. So, 23rd day under the twins. Granted, I know that it's not May for Gemini, but I'm like, that's really close to mine. And then the 4th day of the crab starts at the end of June, which Jerome's birthday is June 10th. So yeah, so I put those in there. But that's some things. And she cares about the heights of people because she's a small character, which is really cool, which we'll go into in there. And Javi is a he, him, and he can view memories. Like he'll touch something and a memory will come to him. It's really cool. It plays out really well in here. And then he has this where he cares about everyone's goals. So, like, her goal is everyone wants to be happy. Everyone needs to be happy. Versus his goal is to create better prosthetics for himself and those who need them. So, kind of a little bit about him. And I find that really interesting. So that's something you get before you even start playing. You get to know your characters. And you get to know your characters from other people's perspectives. So, like, Sorara would talk about Javi as from her perspective. And like how they met and whatnot. And then you also, once you, say you want to be Sarah, you'll grab her thing and you'll fill out your name. And if there's anything that you start with, you would get that. She doesn't start with anything. And then you'll notice that she has these runes. Like, how I said that she communicates with things? Well, she can sense their emotions. She can sense these ruins. So like Aegis, Bolster, Flights, Fracture. And she can feel those things. And then, like, Javi really cares about prosthetics. So his is all about spending these. Like, you can get, throughout the game, you get different resources that you can spend. So, like hers, you will notice that it's just these white dots, but she has some white dots and some. So like hers, this is just experience, and then you can go from the center out to wherever you want, and you get specific things whenever you get that number, that is not a number you read in here. That is a card you get from this index. So you would go through and you would go to the number and pull out whatever number it says. And then you do what that card says, essentially. It's pretty self-explanatory once you get there. But him, he goes and he has experience, and then he uses his items on here, while she'll use her items for crafting for other things, which we'll get to at the very end of the day. Like for instance, like all of them can use experience to get things, essentially. And so this is Z's board. And then Z, sorry, I'm really bad with Z-zer pronouns. But Zer will get inspiration through things like plants and whatnot. Really inspires her. And occasionally you'll get a sticker that you place on this board. It'll have a number. Sometimes it'll have like a jagged edge, and that means it's just half a number. So you'll get later on another jagged edge that connects it. But if anytime you get a full number, you get, again, that index card, and it does something throughout, and that's really cool. So like character development is awesome in this, and for her, she creates potions. So like at the very beginning in setup, you know that you have this potion, so you actually it tells you to grab this card, so you can always know what that potion does, which if you're interested, which I don't have my pink screen on. The pink screen is completely not working. Okay. That is okay. We'll just, but anyways, so stamina tonic, so you get to regen yourself. So get a little bit of health back and add some dice to the pool. This is for fight scenes. But like, so she knows that recipe off the beginning. So she knows that wormroot and pickleberry creates that. Throughout this game, you can get multiple different resources, and you can combine them in different things and get different things. They'll tell you a number, and that you'll look, and they'll tell you to look in here, and it'll tell you what potion you get, as well as what you're doing, essentially, while you're doing it. It's very interesting, and I do really like it. But her experience she can use to like map out the stars and these animals that she sees in the stars. And again, she'll like come to the number 9 and she'll grab that from the index. So experience is used really interestingly when you get it. Javi, his is used when he's crafting. Everyone else has like separate crafting things, like she does potion. Zer does stuff with these inspirations. And she, now, I'll just go over it now. At the very end of the day, you're at some point, you're told to get an interlude card, which is one of these backed cards. And you'll flip it over, do what it says. The very first one, she gets 2 weapons. One of these is this. So like for her, since she can communicate with things, this has a back that tells you that she can feel this item's emotions, and you can read anything in this book, and it'll tell you how you can interact with these. There's a couple stickers and then a solid thing here. So you can, this will tell you how to interact with that, and that is her crafting. So this one's crafting is just using both the experience as you get it, and then the materials. So his is Z's kind of combining the two, while everyone else has like separate things, but it's still really, really interesting. And I do really love the character development for all 4 of them. So, but okay, so we've gone over character development. We did kind of go over crafting, which happens occasionally. You'll know when to do it. Sometimes, you might spend all day doing it, but sometimes it'll be, you can do this or you can craft. Like your inspiration card or your interlude cards, they have options. Some of them you might be able to craft. Some of them might give you an interaction that you do. Some of them, like maybe you can be playing her, but your interlude card says, oh, well, you're going to hang out with Farah. Both of you have to agree. So both players are like, yeah, sure, we'll do that one. And then you'll both read from your books, which reading from the book. So let's go ahead and get started. So after you do your personal setup, you read through everything, you're going to start with 1. Now, the book has text that everybody has. Then it has this little symbol, which you find on the front of your book to denote who is talking. So it happens to be Soror, so she'll be talking, and then it goes back to something that's in everybody's book. And then you'll notice that it's that symbol and just dotted lines with Harina has something to say. So Harina would go and she would have this open to the same passage, and then she would read her things, and then it would go back to whoever is the main reader. You can have one main reader or swap it around, and then it might go to someone else, and then it goes on and on and on until the very end. And it says to record on our adventure in the current day, which is the very first time you do it, the 27th day in the sun. So you have this map, some paper maps, so you do have to be kind of careful. But it will show different locations that you can experience throughout, which again you'll notice is all blank. That's just like a blank thing. You might fill that out later. But this is like your journal. This is what you do throughout it. So occasionally the book will tell you to write something down. So at the very beginning, it says, got breakfast together at fertile grounds. So we started our day together at fertile grounds. And we'll just be writing some of our experiences through. And then we'll just continue on until it tells us stop. So then it will do that. And how do we respond to the stranger's threat? And each person has a different thing. But like you say, oh no, that's no tune, ... You can't really know what they're going to say because they're going to be the one saying it. Then you can say, no. And you read 63, so on and so forth. And then eventually this first day will lead you to a fight scene. So it'll tell you to go ahead and go to this book, your action scene book, and go to that very first one, which is page 2 and 3. So when you open this up, you have this cute little picture, so adorable. Visual reference, which is very handily on the back of the rule book as well. This, at least the very first few playthroughs, you have this right there. Because, okay, what is bleed again? What is hasten? So you open this up, and it will tell you some setup. So this is where you'll be playing on. This is your setup. So we're going to be dealing with Rune Raiders. So it will show you the order everybody goes in, and it will set up. So this is this. So if you can see this, I'll try to put it up there. So we have for 2, 3, or 4 characters playing. So like for a full complement, you would have to set up 2 ruffians, which down here, the ruffians, and it shows you their name and what they are. So they're this. So you take, there's little dies on here. So 1 and a 2. So you'll take the 1 and the 2 because you have to place 2. And you place them on that symbol. So you find that symbol. So there's 2 different ones. So like you find that symbol and oh, there's a 1. So you find the 1, you put it there. You find the 2 and you put it on the 2 symbol. And then we also need to place 2 because it's 1, 1, 2. So 1 for 2, 1 for 3, and 2 for 4. Arbalist's on that symbol right there. So you take, again, your 1 and your 2 die, and you find that symbol. So we're looking here, so that's a 1, so we can place our 1 right there. And we're looking for that symbol as a 2, and it happens to be way over here. And you can see that there is some more things there. And then you're going to place a Legaia. She's the raid leader, which has pronouns of she or her. And you're going to be placing her on that moon symbol. And so you'll place her on that moon symbol right there. And then you can place your own. So we have all of ours. And there's these paw prints that dictates where we begin. So we place ours right here. Now, you'll notice that this meeple, okay, if I can stand him up, is much smaller compared to the others. She's a small character, so everyone else has to be by themselves, like they can only occupy 1. She can be with someone else. So she can actually occupy a space with another person. And this is a little bit weird. These look like different spaces here, but this whole thing is one space. So one space, even though it's broken up, but there's these darker lines all the way around it like a grout to dictate the different spaces. And then these are just hexes. So you have like different map setup. And then what you do is you would take 8 dice and you roll them. And then those become your dice pool. So, ooh, yeah, you got lots of movement and lots of defense. We got some boost and no attack. So these shards, these are just a free, whatever you want it to be. And then there's also this POW, which is the attack. And the other side that could be is either a foot or a boost, either or. So those are the different sides you can get. So that was a defense. So if that would be our roll, that is how we start. And then we also take this, place it here to track how each turn, and then we take the dials, enough for the characters, and we put them on 0. So the weird thing about this is, let me put these all on 0, is each monster, like, you know, in Gloomhaven, you have monster 1 has 8 health, and you're not knocking monster 1's health down to 8. It's not quite how it works in this. So, like, you can be fighting this dude, which is, you know, this one. So, like, you might get 3 hits into that one. And then you start attacking this one. And you get 3 more hits. Notice I'm moving the same dial. And then it goes up to 6 hits. So this one dies because that's the one that got the last hit. Then you move the dial down to 0. If it had, like, say you went up to 8 hits. And that's enough to remove this. But you have 2 left over. Then you would go down to 2. So then this one would still have 2 hits on it. I find that a little bit weird. It's definitely for simplicity's sakes, because keeping track of all of these monsters would add a little bit of fiddliness. But that's just how those go. So you put all the health dials down to 0. You take your turn. At the start of a character's turn, you take 3 dice, you roll them, and you add them to the pool. And I separate them out just for ease. And then everyone gets to do 2 actions. So everyone has the same actions on here. So you get to have move, punch, and ready. And then you also get defend. And then some have like some passive. So because I'm small, I can occupy a space with an ally or an enemy. And she treats enemies as if they're difficult terrain. Which difficult terrain goes into here. You can move into it freely, but to move out of difficult terrain, it takes 2. And it's this blue bordered space, which this is difficult as well. But some have actually different actions. So, augment strength. This is passive. My boost attacks crit on the boost as well, in addition to other critical rolls. So, not only would it be like if you're boosting, you know, a defense, you would roll and then the defense would add you another defense. But for him, if you would roll this, it would add you another defense, which is pretty powerful. And if you notice, there's blank spaces for armor and other abilities. So guess what? You're going to be beefing up your character throughout this. And some of the armor that you actually get stickers that you can put on the things. I find that so cool. And then you actually are tracking your damage throughout. So if you ever reach, everyone's toughness is 6. So if you ever reach more than 6, you still continue on. But then you get an injury, and then that adds something that you have to deal with. And it's like if your injury takes 5, for instance. So like you got 9 hits, then your injury took 5, so then you're down to 4. So then you're back below your toughness, so that's good. But say you got up to 9 hits all of a sudden, and then you got an injury, and it only took away 2. Well, then you're down to 7, so then you have to take another injury to get back down. And so the injuries could be pretty powerful, and it can hurt you, but at least you can still move on. So it's not like, oh, once you reach your 6, you're done, you're out of the scenario, you can't play anymore. You can still continue on. You just got massively hurt. And your damage stays with you after combat. So you might get really bloodied up. you're going to get that when you go home. Like when you leave this square, you're not just magically healed. You're going to have lasting consequences because of this fight, which I find really cool. But anyways, back to the combat. So we started our thing. We got 3 dice we rolled. And then we get 2 actions. So the actions are, of course, listed here. So we started with this character. So one of them might be to move. So you have to spend a move die. And then you can spend 1 more die to be able to move an additional space. But he only needs to move 2 to be able to reach this right here. If he did want to avoid this difficult terrain, he could use this boost and then move 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, no. This is right there, so he wouldn't need to do that. Sorry. Right? Oh wait, no. That is right there. Sorry, sometimes it is a little bit confusing. So he was here so he could go 1, 2, 3 and then be able to fight both of them, which that can be pretty cool. So maybe that would be what he does for the first action. Those go back to the dice pool. And then he can attack. So for attack, you have to do the POW one, which there are no POWs, so he'll have to use this shard. And he can choose to boost. So boosting, you can, it adds. Like right now, the attack is attack 2 plus 1 roll of the die. Boosting makes this an attack 3 plus you roll 2 die. So boosting the attack will make it a 3. So we'll say, okay, I am going to be fighting which one has the less health. This one has less health. So we'll fight them. So we're attacking them for 3 and rolling 2 dice. Okay, so this is the green. It's who's playing. So I should probably use theirs. So, basically he has a passive agreement that after he adds foot to the pool, he has to move 1. But, so he didn't roll the punch. If he had rolled either the POW or the shard, then he would be adding 1. But he rolled defense, so that roll was nothing, so he just did 3 damage. So then whoops. Nope. This one was the one that he did. So he did 3. So add that up to 3, and then he's done. And then you move on. So this one hasn't been introduced yet. It shows this reinforcement at the end of the first round. You'll get that. So you just skip it for now. And we go on to this small character. So she can choose to, well, first roll a 3. Wow, so we got lots and lots of feats. So something else that you can do is you could choose to ready. So you add a die. So basically you spend a die. So maybe we'd want to spend this foot because we don't want to have too much movement. So we spend a die and then we get to add any one of them. So maybe we will want to add a POW. So that was 1 action to spend the die and add the POW. And then maybe she's like, well, all I could do is move, so maybe I'll just go ahead and do that again, but this time with defense. So that way next turn, they'll be able to go really well. But then we have an enemy turn. So what they do, they roll 1 die, and it'll come down here and it'll tell you what to do. So this is protect and strengthen self and strengthen nearest ally. So we have protect and strengthen. So we would take this and strengthen. And usually you would just put it on the character's spot up here, but because she goes off actually multiple times, you would then just put it on her spots down here. So that way you can remember that it's hers. And you also will strengthen the nearest ally. So these are equal distance, so whichever one is next in scenario order is the tiebreaker, so she would put that right there. But then we skip that and skip that. Now we can maybe see what strengthen is. So they will roll. Okay. So they will attack 2 plus roll 2 and protect self. However, they don't have range. Unless it specifically says something. So like if they drew this, they would move to attack 1 plus 2 dice with a range of 3. But they don't have any range and they're not moving, so they don't get an attack. Unfortunately, that means that this is wasted because that just means that they do an extra damage, but at the end of their turn, it is taken away if they start their turn with it. So it lasts until the end of their next turn, essentially. And then it will go to 3, which isn't there. And then it'll go back to us, which there's only 2 dice to add because, well, we didn't have enough dice, or we didn't have any actions. So we only get to roll 2 dice. Because if you can't do it, you just lose out. So you want to use your dice when you can, but sometimes you need to prep for future turns. But basically that's how it goes. At the end of this, we would then, reinforce with some of these, which they would come in at specific places, based on their numbers again, and where it says to do it. And then the goal is over when she has suffered enough damage to be defeated, which she is 4 with this little character count. So that's, 4 times a full complement would be times 4, so 16. Once she would suffer 16 damage. And either 2, 3, or 4, depending on player count. So full complement would be 4. 4 others have also gone away, which I just put them up here to remind myself that they are done, that they wouldn't have been played. And so once 4 of them have been put up there, scene is over, and it will tell us to read something. And so then we go to our books and we read the book. Eventually you'll either do a whole bunch of these, or you'll do a whole bunch of reading, or you'll do other stuff, and eventually it will tell you to reach that interlude card. And at the end of the interlude card, you'll make your decisions. It will tell you to read some things, and it'll say, once everyone has made their decision, the day is over. You're done. So after you've written sometimes a lot of things during the day, it says to read a specific number in all the books. And that has it for every day. So then you'll read that, and you'll do what it says, and then the next day, throughout the thing, you'll be experiencing this. You will choose a place to go, and you'll read that location in the book, and you'll just see what it says. And all the time you'll be developing your characters, you'll be getting to know them, getting to really experience what they like. You'll get to know the differences between them. You'll see how they have really big strengths. And I do really like that. Now the downside of this is, well, sometimes you kind of want to, it's really easy to play one day right after the other. So you can play for hours upon hours upon hours. It isn't an insane amount of setup as, you're just turning this book to this page. But there are quite a few different monsters, which I have in all their different baggies, but there's quite a few of them. And then there's, all of these. So there is that. But it's not too bad for setup because you have this index. And everybody has their own box. So in between plays, you can put everything of theirs. Like I'm in the middle of a campaign, so obviously you'll hear some rattling because that's what's in here. But, so you'll have that, and it will be what they have. So you can easily put it away. However, pretty much the worst part about it is you pretty much want to play all 4 characters. So this is a 2 to 4 player game, but if you're missing her, well, yeah, you have ways to get the potions that she can produce. Because you can, the stereotypical ones, healing, stamina, all of those. But she has interesting things that she says during the things. And she sees things that, other people don't. And it adds to the story. So you really want to play all 4 of these characters. But that means you're playing 4 characters. So if you're playing 2 people, each one of you is playing 2 different characters, which means you're keeping track of 2 of these books. You're keeping track of 2 of these things. You have to do the crafting for 2 different people. Now, the crafting rules aren't too hard, and they are written right here, but it does take some time. It does provide some downtime that you're thinking, okay, which one would of these be best? I could go this way, I could go that way. When you spend experience, you gotta, remember how much experience you have, and you do one at a time. And then like if you're playing 3, well, you know, then you just are sharing 1 between the 4. But if you're playing solo, like I have been, you're playing 4 characters solo. So you're doing all 4 of these books. The nice thing is there are these bookmarks that you can put in, you know, it will tell you where to bookmark certain things. Like for instance, there's this one that you will experience early on, and it will tell you to bookmark this page. And it will have numbers. That's how you see different things. It will have different numbers in different locations. And, you know, she might see something over here and no one else sees it. And that lets, you know, that furthers the story. So there's that. So, but you can put these bookmarks in. But I found myself going, okay, read that. Move over here because, you know, that first one, especially, there's a lot of conversation between the characters. So you're going and moving. And that can get a bit cumbersome. But at the same time, if you're not playing with the characters, you're not really getting their story. And yeah, you could get a recharge pack and replay the entire campaign with the other 2. Although you actually might be able to play the campaign pretty much without needing the recharge pack if you're just going from these 2 to these 2, for instance. It's like a lot of the reusable stuff is character based, not thing based. Actually, no, I'll take that back. There are some things that you get as a group. So yeah, you would have to get a recharge pack just to play the other 2 characters. That's a lot of extra things versus you could play all 4 and experience the entire story, but then you're doing a lot of bookkeeping. So that's kind of the downside of it, because if you're not playing with all 4, you don't feel like you're getting the full story. You don't feel like you're getting the full experience. So you do pretty much have to play 4 characters. Whether you're playing solo, even though it's not technically a solo game, but it's a cooperative game, so you're just having to juggle 4 books. But if you're playing 2 people, then, you know, each person does 2, which isn't too bad. You know, cuts your work in half. But, you know, if you're playing 3, that's not too bad, you know, and then 1 person will control essentially 2. And then, you know, but everyone will be making decisions for that one. You would just be reading for them, essentially. If you have 4, that's great. That's awesome. You get all 4 characters. You might, you know, be like, oh, but I really wanted to play her. She's so cool. Or, oh my goodness, I really like the idea of tinkering. Because, you know, he tinkers around with stuff. Because, you know, look at that bionic arm. That's so cool. Or robotic arm. But, so yes, that's probably my biggest downside is you pretty much need all 4 characters in play. Like, you don't need. Like, you will be able to get it, but then you have to take time. Instead of doing those cool things with other players at those interlude cards, you have to take time to talk to the character that's not in your story, essentially. So it's like, but I really want to do my interlude stuff. I really want to do that. But it is kind of a hard thing because you have to craft, and one of the big ways that you can craft is those interlude cards a lot. But you give away that, you know, in whatever it might be in the books, that sequence. So you're giving away whatever that might be for the chance to craft, which definitely helps you and makes it so that you have a chance in the next scenarios. But it is really difficult because, I really want to know more of the story, and if I'm just throwing away the scenarios, well, not scenario, but you know what I'm saying, the storyline, I might never get to experience that. I might never get to know what happens at the market if I go. Like, what would happen there? And you never get that card because a lot of times you archive it. You put it back in the index. So you have your deck of cards that you'll be experiencing, and then it goes away. And it's like, but it's okay if, you know, you're getting to do that, but it's at the same time, I need to craft. Like, I need to be able to do that. It's like that, it's kind of like, So you find times to craft when you can. Maybe you'll spend a day crafting, but then you're not spending the day going out and doing stuff. And maybe the stuff you would do would be really cool. So you kind of do have to balance crafting with going out and doing stuff and going out and experiencing your things. And while they are random events, at least for the interlude cards, so they're not exactly story specific, they do provide you with really cool things. But yeah, that's what I think about it. I do really, really love it. Even with the 4 characters, even with having to juggle all 4 of these and having to remember where each set and bookmark this one and then, okay, come over here. Even with all that, I do love it. It would be a 10 out of 10 game, except it's very fiddly when you're playing all the 4s, and I feel like you have to play all 4. Like, you're going to want to play all 4 characters. There's no way that, oh, I'm fine with just playing these 2 and hearing about these 2. I don't need what they do in Splendent Vale to just come to me, and as a character, you know, I'm fine with just these 2. No, you want all 4. So yeah, so for that reason, I do rate it a 9.5 out of 10. I do absolutely adore it, but it is very heavy to do with all 4 of these characters as one player. That would be even heavy to do with just 2 players. So really, you need 4 players to do this game as it should be. So with that said, I do have to rate it a 9.5 because you need that 4th. But, you know, if you can't get 4 people consistently together, there are ways to make it work. Like, I have played through 15, 16 scenarios, or days, I guess not scenarios, but days, and absolutely adored it, even with juggling all 4. So I do really love it, and I do hope you get a chance to check it out. I don't believe that this is actually going retail, but I think you can buy it from their website, Renegade Games specifically. Or you could buy it secondhand, because you could find a recharge pack maybe from theirs, and then someone, you know, they're done with the campaign, maybe they don't want it, you could buy it secondhand from them and just buy the recharge pack. That might be a way for you to get your hands on it. But I do really love it, and it's like a cross between Legacy of Dragonholt, which is a very story-rich game, obviously very story-rich, and Gloomhaven, because you are fighting these things. You do have these tokens that very much remind me of Gloomhaven. You know, you have Bleed, which at the end of your turn, you get a wound, or you get a damage. Very similar to Wound, but Wound at the very beginning of your turn, you get it. But these, like, they'll go away. You'll lose 1 token at the very end of your turn, so you'll lose that Bleed. You'll put a band-aid over it. And then, like, Protect, you know, you get a shield. Hasten, you're going to move an extra. Strengthen, you're going to deal an extra damage if you do it. And then Weaken, you're, you know, weakening them. So there are some really cool things in here. It does have some very Gloomhaven feel, but it's very bright, very colorful. So if you didn't like the dark drabness of Gloomhaven and you love the look of this, I mean, definitely check it out. It is very, very good. I like all of it. Because, like, even if you are staying home and crafting instead of, you know, going out and exploring, well, you know, that could be a good thing. You know, you are getting a lot accomplished during that day. But at the same time, you're missing out on that. But it's still, you got to do these really cool things throughout the day that'll help you when you go out. It'll give you something cool, something unique that you can deal with throughout the next time you know, journey outside of Splendent. But yeah, so definitely check this out if you have any interest in campaign games, if you have any interest in a nice, you know, very awesome artwork game. I love every last one of these characters, and I cannot wait to play another day with them. So that is what I think. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, just remember to have fun, be present, and be you. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you find value in our content, please like, comment, or subscribe. Let a friend or family member know that we exist. Help us spread our channel and bring remote gaming to a table near you. Thank you very much, and have a great day.